In the Fortune magazine article that you sent to all the shareholders, you referenced a practice by Darwin that when he found something that was contrary to his established conclusions, he quickly wrote it down because the mind would have pushed it out. And if you read The Origin of Species, Darwin's very careful to avoid fooling himself. He very carefully asks and answers the hard questions. It's a feedback mechanism, and you've picked up on one of his feedback mechanisms to avoid fooling yourself. So the two questions are this. If you model how you think, Charlie thinks, how physicists think, how mathematicians think, you see the same pattern. You want to use logic. You're dedicated to logic, but logic's not enough. You have to avoid fooling yourself. So you build feedback mechanisms. So the first question is, do you see it that way? That you're thinking just like mathematicians, physicists, and some of the other exceptional businessmen by being logical and being careful to have feedback mechanisms. And the second question is about other feedback mechanisms. Your partnership, sitting next to you, is a great feedback mechanism. It's hard to fool yourself when you partner with 찰리멍거.
Right.
This meeting's a feedback
Hard to fool him, too.
But that's not an accident. The meeting, on one level, is a feedback mechanism. The way you attack the annual report letter is a feedback mechanism. So could you comment, both of you, on other feedback mechanisms you developed? Thank you.
Well, you've come up with two very good ones. I mean, there's no question that Charlie will not accept anything I say because I say it, whereas a lot of other people will. I mean, it's just the way the world works. And it's terrific to have a partner who will say, you're not thinking straight.
Doesn't happen very often.
There's no question the human mind, that what the human being is best at doing is interpreting all new information so that their prior conclusions remain intact. I mean, that is a talent everyone seems to have mastered. And how do we guard ourselves against it? Well, we don't achieve it perfectly. I mean, Charlie and I have made big mistakes because, in effect, we have been unwilling to look afresh at something. That happens. But we do have, I think the annual report is a good feedback mechanism. I think that reporting on yourself, and particularly if you can report honestly, whether you do it through an annual report or do it through some other mechanism, is very useful. But I would say a partner who is not subservient and who himself is extremely logical, is probably the best mechanism you can have. I would say the typical corporate organization is designed so that the CEO opinions and biases and previous beliefs are reinforced in every possible way. I mean, having staffs around you that know what you want to do, you are not going to get a lot of contrary thinking. I mean, most staffs, if they know you want to buy a company, you're going to get a recommendation. Whatever your hurdle rate, if it's 15% internal rate of return, which very few deals ever work out at, or 12, or they're going to come back and they're going to come back with whatever they feel that you want. And if you arrange your organization so that you basically have a bunch of sycophants who are cloaked in other titles, you're going to leave your prior conclusions intact, and you're going to get whatever you go in with your biases wanting, and the board is not going to be much of a check on that. I've seen very, very few boards that can stand up to the CEO on something that's important to the CEO and just say, you're not going to get it. So you've hit on a terribly important point. That, all of us in this room want to read new information and have it confirm our cherished beliefs. I mean, it is just built into the human system. And that can be very expensive in the investment and business world.